We moved down to the town office earlier. I looked down over the hill and I saw all the people down there fishing off the old bridge that the town used to own. And I was so glad to see that the person has let the people continue to fish down there off that bridge.
He said he would, and he has.
But that don't mean he had to. And I'm just glad he did it. So.
Jason?
A couple things. So, just for the, I think the board knows, but David has built one of two floats that is already installed at the park, donating his time and energy, and that is really a big deal because we've been behind on that. And so I think, thank you, and we'll wait on the second one. The other thing is, should we mention what we just talked about?
Let's wait till it's done.
You schedule a time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or go ahead. We have a tentative, so the board would like to say that we have a tentative agreement with Mr. and Mrs. Baker across the street from the town office for the purchase of their property. And if everything goes well, we'll have a special town meeting in July at some point to see if the voters will support that. And I think we are all, speaking to the board, I think we're all pleased that both parties will come up with this. Anyway, that's just
Can you ask questions?
go ahead.
Okay. And what's the purpose of buying the property? To use for what?
Parking. We're going to be moving the road, and the Wasser Road is going to shift, And because the Nequasit Road is now the primary exit and entrance to that side of Route 1, I mean, there's 335 houses right now. Well, last spring, there was 335 houses on that side of Route 1. I think it's up closer to 340 now. And there's several subdivisions down there. So we could easily see 400 houses on that side of Route 1. And with losing the George Wright, the other end of the George Wright Road, I sat down there one morning and in a half an hour's time, I saw 19 cars drive up to that intersection and turn left. I saw one car drive up to that intersection and turn right. So you know that most of the people that live on that side of the Route 1 work somewhere, even Bath, Brunswick, or some, very few of them go to Wisconsin and go to work. They all head south to go to work. So with the traffic that we have on that road now, and it's going to increase over the time, and we have no parking at the town hall. Every time we have an event, it clogs up.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
before it wasn't a big deal, because people just went down the other end of George Wright. But we don't have that option anymore.
Yeah, that's good.
I think it's good, yeah, if it all works out, I think it's really a great benefit, a big benefit.
I think the fire chief probably should be pretty glad that we own it too.
Oh, yeah, we could use some more parking.
Yeah, that's it, David.
Okay. Selectmen's comments, I just want to comment on our lawn mowing contractor. I have to say that I will not vote to, next spring, I want to put it out to bid. I mean, he's done a good job for us for years, but I'm just tired of arguing. If you notice out here, I spent the afternoon, good part of the afternoon mowing out here because he keeps mowing less and less here. And I've seen it in others. He's not following through like he did for several years. So I seriously think we need to put it out to bid and entertain other contractors. Public comments. Now's the time to talk to us about anything you want to. If it's not on the agenda, if it's on the agenda, please wait for it to come up. Anybody? Road Commission. Jack?
Yes, have anything came at all?
Just with Mr. Jan Martin and Jennifer.
Okay, the other thing I have is Mr. Madden called and complained about debris in the road, tires, etc., whatever there. I checked with our codes enforcement officer, he said it's a civil suit. I called the sheriff's department and asked them to look into it, to send a man over to a deputy over to look at it and see if it was something they should be addressing. It's really, this is a problem all over town, but it's not really a problem. There's a lot of people that have things in the right of way. So I don't think that we can really do too much about that at the moment.
Why does it seem to bother him so much if it's outside the pavement?
It's just, I think this lady, Jen Miller, I think she's been causing them a lot of harassment and retaliation, and he's throwing this back at her. But it's something I don't personally, as road commissioner, want us to get involved with. I don't think we need to. And secondly, we had a semi-annual bridge look over, because now we only have one bridge or one structure. We lost two, and that's up to West Hedge. And today they went up and cleaned the brush and wood out of it. They made mention that they will someday maybe have matching funds, but the letter said that they didn't expect to see it in the near future if we ever had to replace it. And I don't see any problem with it. The culvert is still in pretty good, there's two of them. They're still in pretty good shape. He was down, Jason was down there today with Nick, and I don't think there's any red flags that we need to be concerned about. The state always throws out something.
In all fairness, it doesn't look any different.
We did with Baker.
It's surprisingly very good.
And what's on top, they're concerned about the height of the guardrail. I brought the material up and put planks on the sides to keep it from washing, because it kept eroding off over each side. Well, we seem to have cured that problem.
Right, and that was part of that soil and water conservation.
Right.
You guys remember that whole project, which was.
So, you know, from the town's point of view, from our point of view, as people, it is working out quite well. It is not giving us any issues. It isn't costing us a lot of money to maintain anything up there.
Didn't somebody replace the bottoms of those culverts?
We put new bottoms in.
20-some years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
We did all brand new bottoms.
They're perfect, there's nothing wrong.
You can go
Yeah,
rid of
about 6 or 8.
12 footers, two 12 footers. They're big.
Well, that would be a very expensive project if we had to undertake that. But I don't see that happening, certainly not my lifetime. And if we keep an eye on it and take care of it, I think it'll go for a long, long time. So other than that, I don't think there's anything,
Any other questions for Jack?
Allison, you must have something. I mean,
I don't always have something to say.
What's the next step in that, the state replacing that wooden bridge on Old Stage Road? Is that
next
happening
year.
next year?
It's supposed to happen
Supposed to next year.
Yeah, Tommy, what they've been doing online is accepting comments, and you probably saw that, they were reaching out for months now, and then they're designing. They've been to see my father and look at the old plans, and they're in the design.
Trying to figure a way to use the old allotments and, well, they had that old, they knew.
91.
91, that it was done correctly and very good down, so I don't know. I guess I mentioned the paving, but we've entered into an agreement with All-State Paving, which will be happening as soon as all the other paving. But we are on the agenda to get down while the weather's good and warm. And so we're in pretty good shape.
Good. Anything further? Thank you, sir. I don't have a written.
It's in folder from Brian.
No,
CEO.
code enforcement?
Oh, sorry.
Code
Yeah,
enforcement?
no, nothing from Brian.
EMS director's report, we had 13 emergency calls, 2 standby fire scenes, 7 no transports, 4 transports, MC1 was used twice. 98,000 in building revenue as of today, does not include the Coast Hospital contract revenue. And the stretcher from Rescue 1 was leaking hydraulic fluid and the service has been completed. The entire report. Sean, fire chief.
16 calls, I've had a busy month, one of which was a structure fire in another town. We also went to Brunswick and New Brunswick with their big structure fire on Gurnett, there behind movie theater.
Fairview Drive.
Yeah, Fairview Drive, yeah. But other than that, nothing else to report.
I've heard through the grapevine a couple of sources that we had a truck that was in an accident.
On the structure fire scene, it clipped a piece of another truck. That's all been taken care of, I assume.
I'm sorry?
But that's all set.
Yeah, actually, MMA has already sent a check to Mr. Reed, so everything's taken care of.
Something that I'd really like to have conveyed to the board as soon as something like that.
It was. They called Tommy as soon as it happened.
That's all. Sorry for the, tell everybody else.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Sean? Okay. Move on. Now we're done with Brian Carl. Yeah, community resilience grant. We've been awarded a $10,900 grant for community resilience. Confirm acceptance of this grant, award and commit to the roles, deliveries, timeline, and outcomes in the attached scope of work. Please sign and date.
This is what we already know about, right?
Yeah.
That's been on the pipeline for.
So it just needs to be
Just
signed.
need to be signed.
I move that we authorize the chair to sign it.
A second.
Okay.
What's it for? What's it gonna do?
Two things. One is update our hazard
Hazard assessment plan.
Mitigation.
Hazard mitigation.
mitigation plan. And the other thing is to create a magnet. We got money, this is money from the state, to create a magnet with some pertinent emergency information, and we will send it out to every resident.
Okay, those in favor of having me sign this? Okay. Okay, new business. Can you have anything further on old business?
I do not.
Just one quick thing. So,
Oh,
would it, do we need to meet next Wednesday? Like, should we meet a week from tonight to, do we need to do any final?
I can send you everything that I have up to date. Normally, we've never met. We've already gone through everything.
I mean, you're
Now, it's up to the auditors
Okay.
to go through and let us know what every department has left in their budget, and then we'll meet and
Okay. But there's nothing we need to
we should
change?
be all set. But I will send you next week what I have entered everything, and it'll show you where we are budget-wise. Okay? Unless you want to meet,
No, I didn't know if you needed us to do
No.
something.
If it isn't necessary, we don't need to, but if something comes up and you need us, let us know.
Absolutely.
Give us a day or 2 minutes and notice, we'll meet next Wednesday night. Okay. Moving on to new business, Roger, Ron, cemetery maintenance.
So, my name is Roger Ron. I live the other end of town now, but I used to live right around the corner. And I'm the president of the Laurel Grove Cemetery. And I'm here to talk to you folks about something that we found out we didn't know, shame on us, that a number of years ago, a law was put into place from the state, and for veterans' graves were to be maintained by the town if so needed. And again, shame on us for not knowing, because it's been quite a number of years that this was out there. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to work with the town, because we do have a very large number of veterans and I'm only representing Laurel Grove, but we have a lot of veterans in there, and either the families aren't around anymore, or in many cases, some of the stones are so far fallen over or broken. So again, we want to partner with the town, and so we can start working on that. I understand you guys just had your annual meeting, and budgets are all done and everything, and we understand that. And we're not trying to beat up anybody or anything. We just want what the law says, and to help us, work with us. And we're actually even looking into some private stuff, people outside that do that work, and some of them will do it and help you and everything. So we're not here just putting up a hand and saying, give us money. We want to work with the town, because it is state law. And so, again, we're a small, well, in size, it's not a very small cemetery, but the people that are still alive and contributing to the cemetery, it's getting pretty thin. So, like I said, I'm just here to see if we can't get together and start working on something for next year. Because obviously, budget's way done, all done, but we should start now and start planning this so that we can start getting. And if any of you haven't been to Laurel Grove Cemetery in recent time, we've been doing a lot of work over there, out of our pockets in some cases. Some of us, including myself and others in the organization, are going out and cutting back brush, and we're doing everything we can to make that a very nice one. But not to mention that the center of the cemeteries are right there. So Laurel Road, that monument was put there because that's the center of town, just as you folks just alluded to in your opening. So again, I'd love to work with any of you or all of you that we can start working on that and getting that.
Roger, the year that law passed, it was on the town meeting warrant. and people voted not to spend any money on it. And a couple of representatives from the other cemeteries stood up and said they didn't want the town to have anything to do with it. So, we can put it on next year's town meeting warrant, and we can come to town meeting and,
But what I was,
you know, if we're going, you know, there's gonna be a cost if the town is involved, and we'd have to raise and appropriate the money for that. Don't be surprised though if some of the other cemetery associations don't want they don't want the town to have anything to do with it.
so one of the things, I mean, yeah, we didn't do anything after that broke down, right? I talked to Roger about this, but I'm thinking that there's gotta be, for those that do, we can put aside a certain amount of money, and I think we came up with a cost per veteran's grave for each cemetery. I would be happy to work with Roger. I also may have volunteered Jason, at least to start this conversation.
Yeah, so you know the history, right, Roger, that year we did that in 2014, we sat down with some of the cemetery groups, we came up with a dollar figure, I think it was $6,600.
Yeah, it was like $20 per grave.
It was just a number we agreed on, and David is right. I mean, I was really surprised too that folks were like, oh, doesn't mean there's not some other way.
Right.
It's been 10 years.
So, like, Karen, you say that the townspeople shot it down, so the townspeople can override state law?
Well, they don't fund
Well,
it.
so I
Well,
think,
they
yeah.
can't override the law, but the intent of the law, the state didn't put any funding behind this. It's another unfunded mandate from the state, okay?
Keep going.
And you know, the taxpayers just didn't vote in money.
And the law says in conjunction with sanitary.
In collaboration.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna go get it.
The law sort of makes it sound like, you know, don't just take over, which we weren't gonna do.
Right.
So,
I mean, I think to satisfy the law, I think if we went up there and, you know, cleaned them with acid or something, if we had a public works department, we sent a public works guys up there to work for a couple of days, that would cover the cost, you know, the intent of the law. And, you know, it is kind of hard because we don't have town staff that we can send up there to do anything, so, you know, we would have to compensate whoever's going to do it. And you know, we would have to get the townspeople at the town meeting to vote the money to do that. That's the only thing I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm against doing it or anything else, I'm not. But, you know, it's the taxpayers that tell us whether or not we can spend the money.
right, so Roger, right, we have to plow the roads, but they don't fund, we don't plow the roads, right?
Right.
So real quickly though, I looked at over the weekend a bunch of research on that, and what we did too prior to that is we had reach out to many towns. And every town, because we were trying to figure out what level of funding, how much was this going to cost, and every town does something different. Some do a very small amount of money, some do some work, and I think under what we learned of the law was any assistance was assistance. I think it's fine. It's been 10 years. I think it probably is time to revisit it. Maybe things are different.
And again, like I said, we're not coming here
Yeah.
just for a hand. We're okay. We're working with some other organizations that are going to try to help us and get some of this stuff fixed up. Some of it we're looking at doing ourselves, being trained by some of the professionals that do that work and help us to help ourselves, so to speak. And again, you know, truly, we're not just like, give me money. It's let's partner and get this fixed. I mean, I don't think anybody, you know, wants to see those graves, especially if anybody here has never been over there and looked at that cemetery and some of the very, very old ancient stones in there that have fallen over, and they're veterans. And to me, I'm a veteran, and to me that's the most tragedy that we can have in our cemeteries, that we're not taking care of those veterans.
There is a group of people that come up here almost every summer working in the cemeteries, and they're people not even from Woolwich. I mean, they're scattered from all over the state, and they come in and you know, they work through the historical society, so we give it.
Well,
Or something.
yeah.
I mean, all we gave, Jack donated a few yards of crushed stone and some sand, and I gave them some totes to work with and stuff like that. And they came up here, and they worked on our cemetery down by the town hall 2 summers. So, and they, one woman's from Florida, she comes up here every summer to work on.
Like I said, we're already working to, we've talked to.
They reset the stones and they did everything, you know?
No, again, we're not, you know, there's a lot to be done with it. And it's unfortunate that, you know, in some cases it was vandals many years ago. And now some of them are just, you know, the stones are not staying where they belong. And so again, we're not asking for a complete handout. You know, we want to work with you folks on it. And, you know, I think it's the best for the town, not just Laurel Road. Because again, that monument that's up there belongs to the town, and it's a shame to have that look that way.
Have you had any contact with the Maine Old Cemetery Association? 'Cause they can help too.
Lori was in contact with one of those folks, and she also had reached out to, and I'm not going to tell you who it was because I can't remember the names properly. So, but in Western Maine, there's a person there who has, you know, approached and said that, you know, they try to help us as well. So it's not just, like I said, we're putting a lot into it as much as we can, physically and financially.
Yeah, so what it says is and I'm just going to paraphrase here, and I can give you this, Roger, I went to email to you. To the best of its ability, given the location and accessibility, the municipality, in collaboration with veterans organizations, cemetery associations, civic and fraternal organizations, descendants of veterans buried in the ancient burial ground, but also, and shall keep the grass, weeds, and brush suitably cut and trimmed on those graves from May 1st to September 30th. I was thinking, and the municipality may designate a caretaker to whom it delegates for a specified period of time the municipality's responsibilities. One of the things I was thinking of is maybe asking Kim to see what other towns have done in the past 10 years, reaching out to the listserv. I can also talk to, I don't know actually which state agency who is responsible for this. I don't. Sorry, I found the statute though, Roger, give me. And we can talk with MMA and figure out what other folks have done, right? So
It mentions cutting brush and mowing and that stuff, but it doesn't say anything about stone repair or anything. I mean,
it does not.
it's kind of a vague
Well-
law. I mean, just, you know, it always feels like a feel-good thing with the legislature and just passed it, you know, it was like, look good.
Which predates me, I want to go on the record.
Please enter that in the record.
They didn't put any specifics in it about how we're supposed to help or what we're supposed to do or anything else.
It does talk about,
Just cutting brush and mowing, doesn't it?
pretty much, although it says, shall keep in good condition all graves, headstones, monuments, and markers designating the burial place of revolutionary soldiers and sailors and veterans of the armed forces of the U.S. And then it goes on to say, to the best of its ability, the municipality, in collaboration with these organizations, shall keep weeds, grass, and brush suitably cut and trimmed on those graves.
I think the best thing, Roger, is for you to work with Allison.
Absolutely, love to.
Come up with exactly what you need, what you want.
Yep.
And we'll put it on the town meeting warrant for next year and see what we can.
That's all we're asking for at this point, is just, you know, let's see.
Jack, you had a comment?
Well, I'm just wondering why perhaps if we were going to participate from the town's level, why would we not address all the stones?
Well, I think we have to.
I think we would
Well,
have
you
to.
have veteran stones or all
we-
stones?
No, veterans. Right?
Yeah.
What's that?
You're talking about veteran stones or all stones?
If we're going to take on some obligation here from the cemetery, why wouldn't we accept all the stones? I mean, why we leave some laying down, and, you know, I'm not against the veterans, but, we went up and did quite a project up with the, Grove Cemetery. We did, as the Shaw, and we did it for, the whole cemetery division.
Yeah. I think part of it is that, except for Quasit and Gould Cemetery, it's not town property. And that's,
See, that's another conflict you run into. The Maine State Constitution says that we cannot spend public funds on private property. So,
but I think there's some way we can,
yeah. So it gets complicated, you know, I mean, again, it's,
Well, there's two ways to look at that. If there was funding available to help with veteran sites, graves, monuments, then maybe that helps the association spend some of their money on the other one, on the other.
right.
I think what we need to do is, I'm going to meet with you, Roger, and anybody, and Allison, but I do think we're gonna have to involve the other cemeteries.
oh yeah, I think that we need to make it available to,
Exactly,
yeah.
before we make a proposal for next year's town meeting.
Understood.
Yeah, and we'll see what we can do. So stay tuned, Allison's gonna spearhead this, take the lead on that.
So I have one other, and I don't know if it's a separate item on there, but one other thing, which has nothing to do with Laurel Road Cemetery, but it does go to a cemetery. So can I talk to you about that just real quickly? I call it the, what's his name?
Socorro?
Kokora Cynthia. I don't know how I could not get his name. Drinks Point, yes. So, I went out this spring and I put the flags up there, and it's kind of getting just not nice up there, and there's veterans up there as well. My question is, does anybody know who actually owns or is in charge of that space, but the reason I'm asking is, I live just around the corner. I am happy on my dime, to go and mow that and clean it up. It's getting a lot of brush and debris in there. It's, as you can tell, I'm very, near and dear into me is making sure these veterans' graves are taken care of properly. And not dinging anybody who has been working or trying to work on it in the past. But again, I live right there and I'm willing to do it on my nickel.
I think the homeowners there have done it.
They have,
And talking with them would be the best thing to do.
yeah, in fact, somebody get me in contact with them. Like I said,
I'm not sure we have,
Nice guy.
I'm not sure we have the authority to do something.
No.
well, somebody can, get me the information.
Yeah,
Whoever it is
Behind the
now.
house, it was great.
John Forrest left a certain amount of money.
I don't want it. I don't, even if it is, I do not want it. I make it
All right, so
very clear.
all I know is what most of you know, isn't the old Kokoris property, they've been
The
doing.
gentleman who bought the Kokoris house is a very, very nice guy. I would strongly suggest you see him, and he will help you pave the way you.
Yeah,
Somebody get me that person's contact.
Yes,
We got it now, the family has it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
But he's a very, very nice guy, very, very pleasant. And if you tell him what you're after, I think you'll have a lot smoother runway.
Yeah, no, that's all
And
I'm
Bob
gonna
came with designs or what, that's right.
I think, I remember, if I remember this correctly, John Forrest left a certain amount of money to somebody to maintain that cemetery.
And again, I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, if there's something out there, good, they can, I don't know. I don't want it. I absolutely 100% want none of that.
I think David's right, I've seen it in the little,
Yep.
ongoing account book that we
Yeah.
have. There's a small, I don't know if it's a few $100.
If there's money there that can be used for something else, I don't care.
I think it has to be for that purpose.
I don't.
But save it for when you're not here and it's needed.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that's very true.
Okay,
Yeah.
moving on. Leon and Nancy, right?
Hello?
Oh, what's that?
Oh. Somebody, what happened?
You stood up.
No.
I don't know what that noise is.
There's no law.
It's the, inverter.
Oh, is it your inverter?
I bet it's the inverter.
That's what it is. I bet, yeah, it's getting,
The inverter that's running the lights is is starting to wear down, so we can close the door there and not hear it.
Thank you.
At some point, we're gonna lose
I was like,
Hello, my name is Nancy Wright, and this is my husband Leon Wright, and I've been appointed as spokesman. We have lived here in Woolwich at 12 Mason Hill Drive, which borders the mountain road. We have come to you today to ask your advice in a civil problem that we have. We have lived here for 5 years, and until recently we were not exactly sure where all of our property pins were located. Recently, our son, who is a contractor in Whitefield, came to do some maintenance on our house. And while he was here, we used his help and expertise in finding our property pins. That was when we discovered we had a problem. Apparently, the southern side of our property is being used as a storage area by our neighbors on the mountain road. There is a shed, boat storage, sometimes a camper trailer, and vehicles all on our property, plus the well for their house is over our land. We do have a survey dated and signed by the town when the subdivision was developed in 2005, and indeed with descriptions supporting the survey. We would prefer to be good neighbors and not have to involve lawyers, and wanted to ask, in your experience and similar situations, how they've been resolved, and any suggestions you may have. We have not personally approached the neighbors, but are open to an amicable solution to getting our land back, and knowing that it will become a much bigger problem if either party should decide to put their properties up for sale. We really appreciate your help. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's much the town can do other than to suggest that, did you have a formal survey done?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, this is it.
Yeah, so in full disclosure, I was contacted by Leon and Nancy, and I went to the property last Friday evening, and at first I was confused, but we found the pins, or the pins that were there. The line has been flagged, I think, by your son. The abutter is here, it's Lynn over there.
Hello.
She happened to be there, and I went down to see her, and it is, in my opinion, it is a civil situation.
Yes.
But it does appear, and I'm not a surveyor, but it does appear your well is on their land, and there is some encroachment, things there, but, I don't know. I told you what I thought. I talked to you, I said you're not gonna necessarily have, you wouldn't necessarily have them drill a new well, there's easements, there's, possibly, I'm not sure you're up for this, but there's possibly a small land sale. You're allowed to sell a small piece to the butter. You have more than the minimum. She's right here, this one. Yes, I got one right here. Just all options. I'm not telling you by any means what to do, but the part that is kind of sad here is I was on the planning board, and Allison was on this plan too. And when the surveyors surveyed for the subdivision, they never told the developer nor the planning board that, this is, to me, if it's the way it is on the ground, it's fairly obvious that this would have been seen. And I think it's kind of too bad. We had another situation in town with the Sanders Road junkyard thing. Remember that was on that guy's property, and so planning boards go out and don't walk every square inch of property, and surveyors evidently don't disclose all these things. But I don't know. You folks need to get together.
Well, we have options, obviously.
There are options, yeah.
There are several options that we've come up with, and along with other people's suggestions. One would be to sell a piece of land to you, which would involve cost to you, lawyers, survey, all of that. We possibly could rent a piece of land for you. So that also I would like to have, signed, dated, lease type thing, so that we know, we get paid every month. Or we don't want you to have to drill a new well. That would be such an expense for you.
Right, well, we've been there for 50 years.
Right.
Never had an issue, and I was told by the Farmers Home Administration, 1985 is when I signed the paper and bought the land. They told me the stone wall was our boundary, and all this time, there has never been a pin there, ever. So I'm challenging that survey to begin with. So,
That's your right. You
Right.
can have a survey done.
and when I went up to your place, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and knocked on the door, nobody answered, and I spoke with a neighbor, and she was kind of abrupt and,
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
I'm willing to come up and we can discuss it.
Okay.
Possibly a land sale, I don't know, it's only, I don't know, what is it, 50
50
feet? 50 feet.
Yeah, but just remember though, that your lot borders Mountain Road, and you have to retain 200 feet of frontage, which is exactly what the survey said. No, you're good, LP, because if that were the pin and it was something you went forward, you could jump back 10 feet and then jog, you know what I mean? But you have to maintain 200 feet of frontage to be a legally conforming lot. Doesn't have to be any depth. Am I making it clear?
No.
Okay, well,
10 feet from your line that borders Mountain Road, and then jog in 50 feet and sell that. But you have to keep 200 feet on the mountain.
that's right, if this is your
But your
corner,
last 50 feet of it can only be 10 feet deep, and it's still legal.
it's just that any lot that borders a public way in town of Woolwich, in your zone, has to have 200 feet of road frontage. So you can't, you have to maintain.
You can't sell right to the road. You can sell down within 10 or 15 feet of the road, but you can't sell right to the road.
Okay.
So how does that work with my two properties? One is 200 feet, the other one's 125. If I want to take half of that, a part of that, 200 off one and make the other one so they be
Yeah.
150 to 200.
Well, there's more information than you in, so it all depends on how somebody acquires a property. So this is when zoning was created. Zoning was created in 67, 68, okay? So if you bought a lot that was prior to zoning, just like downtown Woolwich or many lots, those are lots of record. They're in existence before the zoning. So they're exempt. So I don't have any idea how you acquired your property.
Well, we bought it in 1974 from Ken Parks.
Right, but it was already a lot, it was already a buildable, it was already created as a lot. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So let's just jump ahead to them. Their lots were created by subdivision from a large piece of land in 2005 or whatever year. So they had to meet current zoning standards. So you may be in a whole different
Right,
situation.
because I guess I'm kind of confused about this whole situation, because on the Western Road, I've got a piece of property. Somebody else, and the codes guy just gave this gentleman a new permit in 2019 to replace his trailer on the wrong property. So, and the codes guy at that time told me there was nothing we could do about it because he was established. So how is that different?
Well, if the lot was already there, of course, that was a former codes officer, right?
Yes.
So if the lot was already created, it was already in existence prior. So in 1950, if you carved out a piece of land that was 75 feet on the road and half an acre, it was completely legal because there was no zoning.
Right, but what I'm saying is, this gentleman is on the wrong property.
Oh, all right, well, that's
But the codes guy gave him a permit to replace his trailer, and the state of Maine said this trailer can never be moved as long as.
Yeah, we'd have to probably know more about that.
Yeah, it's a mess, and I just recently.
What you have here, when you built the home in 1985,
Yeah,
that was all raw land there on there. All that was just wooded property, correct?
yes.
Because the road was built in.
Yeah, Florence Cedars owned it all the way up to Hickson.
So when this development was proposed, they had a surveyor come in and survey it. So you didn't necessarily do anything wrong intentionally. It was just all raw land and everybody thought it was okay. So if you dispute the survey, you have to hire a surveyor and see if they agree or disagree, right?
Well, I don't have the funds to hire a surveyor, but I'm challenging that because Farmers Home did one back when we bought
the Farmers Home Administration of the US government, they developed the plot plan, they had the well installed, they had the driveway and the turnaround installed, and they used that stone wall as the boundary.
Maybe there is a survey.
Maybe there, yeah.
The only proper way to challenge a survey is with a different survey, with another survey.
Yeah.
If it went to court, I can tell you from experience that the court is always gonna go with a survey over above somebody's supposition.
So that outdoes the deed
You
to the
can
property.
tell the court that you think you own all the way to the stone wall all you want, but if the neighbor has a survey saying that stone wall's on their property, the court's gonna take the survey over Uncle Jake's memory or whatever, you know, and it's hard in a town as old as Woolwich, because a lot of this lot we're sitting on right now was created in 1835, and there's no way you could build a house on this lot today, because it's a substandard lot. But in 1835, there was no such thing, you know, so.
So what do we do about the well situation? The wells are all contaminated because they built a subdivision up there. So,
Yeah, so you've got two choices. You either can get together with them and figure out a way, and if they're willing to sell something, give an easement, or sell an easement, it might be money well spent. You still need a surveyor and some attorney work. Or you can challenge it, hire a surveyor, spend money, but it may be the same result. See, the trouble with a deed is a description, but you have to go back to the beginning to to figure out the accuracy. You know what I mean? I mean, as you know, when people, I'll sell you from that tree to that tree to that tree, I think it's 3 acres, but mainly survey would be 2. So it's survey work.
You want to say something?
Yeah.
What would be the possibilities of just putting back to where you know you're on your land and then drilling a new well? In other words, if your water's bad anyway, you might want to.
well, it's bad in both houses. It's
I mean,
bad, both wells.
Throw more money away, you know?
Yeah.
Well, or they might consider an easement for the well and you pull back everything else. I mean, I don't know. It's really what you folks are gonna know. But.
And what do I need to do if I just put the place on the market?
The trouble is, if we put it on the market, I think it's gonna get picked up. So real quickly, you folks purchased yours, didn't have a mortgage inspection or anything. So this, you didn't know about this till you went walking around. You're gonna run into that when if you put the house on the market and Dale comes along and buys it, the bank sends somebody up to look at it, and they do an inspection, I would suspect that they're gonna.
So I just tell them it doesn't come with a well?
Oh. I don't know.
Because I'm seriously thinking,
But,
I don't know.
the fact of the matter is that, you know, the only thing we can give you is advice, because we.
That's what we ask.
It's a civil
Yes.
issue, and, you know, a survey is always gonna trump everything else. The only way to challenge a survey is with another survey, and then let the two surveys hash it out.
So we would just like our land back.
Well, the sad part is really the survey that did it should have seen this. And it could have been fixed before it became a subdivision, or when it went through the planning board process. It could have just dealt with it, but anyway, it's.
But knowing that you really need that piece of land, they're using it and need it because of the driveway, you don't have any more land to park anything. That's why we were willing, if you're willing to, we'd be willing to do an easement for the well, so you wouldn't have to. All right, so, come up with a figure on what it would be to buy that little.
You guys need to.
We will.
Okay. Well, good luck. And
We appreciate your expertise. I knew that there was a lot of experience here, and I thank you for your time.
thank you.
Hope things go well.
Thank you, we will. We're good neighbors.
Mythos Humane contract. We have the contract here from the Mythos Humane Society, and I believe it needs signatures.
I'll be up this weekend. That's fine. Yes, thank you.
I would move that, we authorize the chair to sign the contract on behalf of.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. I'll sign it and print my name and use the witness signature. You want to witness it?
Do you know what land is selling for in this town? Per acre, per foot?
No.
Talk to the assessor on Thursday.
Thank you.
It's whatever somebody wants to get.
That's a hard question. It depends on where the location of the land and, how much land you're talking. If you're talking I'll give you an example. I paid $5,000 for a piece of land that wouldn't take up half the size of this room.
Right.
I needed it desperately.
Right.
But if you could find, if you're talking 500 acres, it goes pretty cheap.
Well, yes, I understand that.
Well, you're not going to hear this, but,
Yes, go ahead.
so you have 1.9 acres, I think. So you have to maintain frontage. You do have room to jog and sell
Yes.
a piece that would make that conforming. But it also requires a subdivision amendment.
It requires what?
A subdivision amendment. Because the subdivision, well, I think Debbie's here from the point, I think it will go fairly smoothly, but where you're amending the subdivision and changing, you have to go back to the planning board too. I don't think that you're gonna, my prediction is there'll be no issue, but the subdivision plan will not be accurate, it will have to be changed. So it needs a surveyor, an attorney, some money, and the planning board. Is what I think you're.
But it shouldn't be our money.
No, it won't, but I'm just saying that's the process, and it could take, and it could take several months.
Yes.
So I'm just saying,
The simplest outcome, if you could get an agreement, would be for her to pull all her,
Right.
everything off your property and give her an easement for the well and it's over and done.
Exactly.
right, that'll be easy, there's no.
That's the
That's right.
easiest,
That's the easiest
no
way.
cost, no fuss thing. I mean, it probably costs you a couple $100 to have a surveyor come down and just delineate where the well is.
Well,
And I had that problem too. I had a piece of property that my well was on the neighbor's property. It was on there for over 50 years, and I owned a building that used to be Emerald Buick. And the neighbor, Emerald wanted to drill a well, and he went and asked his neighbor, and the guy said, well, I need a deal on a good Buick. So they worked out a deal on a Buick, he drilled a well, but they never put anything in writing. So when I bought the property 50 years later, I ended up having to buy an easement from the current owner of the property for that well.
They're gonna do it. Well, David is right, you have one with the septic, right? Septic off the street there. So, yeah, many people charge for the easement, have the individual, those folks pay all the costs.
Yes.
And I don't even know if it necessarily need a survey, it might just need a legal description from an attorney, as long as you felt like everything else was off your
Well,
property.
how do we keep it off our property zone?
Well,
Good fences make good neighbors.
I mean, what is there, a storage shed that did not require a building permit?
That's
and there's
correct.
Some
10
parking.
by 16.
Yeah, right. In Woolwich, under
It's
200,
fine.
under 200.
Well, I think everything that's setting on your property on wheels, that wouldn't be a big deal about it.
No.
The shed might take a little bit of time, but the rest of it, if it's all on wheels, it's just.
David's right, that's going to be the simplest, quickest.
Yes,
the
I
easiest,
agree.
But whether you folks want
We'll see. We'll
some
see.
compensation for easement, that's your business. All right.
I appreciate it so much, thank you. I'm done.
Does anybody have anything further to come before us tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
We're out. Thank you, everybody.